It has been a busy 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago today, I moved into this place. And then last Friday, I got my padrón. And then today, I got my TIE. Well, not the final step in the TIE. I went through the process of getting fingerprinted, and then I'll have my TIE in about 8 weeks. So these last 2 weeks have been incredible in terms of me feeling safe and secure in Spain. I feel like I am finally legal here. So, if you are unfamiliar with the TIE, it stands for Tarjeta Identificación Extranjero, which is basically the foreigner's ID card. And so, there are a whole bunch of documents that are necessary to get this. And so first off, I had to have proof of an appointment. You also need an application for the TIE. There's a form that proves that you have paid the fee. You also need your residence approval letter for whatever visa that you have. You need your passport, of course, and you also need your padrón. So just a lot of organizing of paperwork for that. And so here's the process that I went through. So first off, I am lucky that I had the assistance of the company that helped me get my visa. They did basically all the heavy lifting for this. They were able to schedule the appointment and do all the paperwork for it essentially once I had the padrón. After I had the padrón, it was easy. It was easy for me since they were able to do all the different follow-on work for that. And so let me tell you about the appointment. I had to go to a different city just because it's very hard to get appointments for anything in Valencia. And so they were able to schedule it at this other police station. That's where it happens, at police stations. And so you go to the police station and then you give your name at the desk where they're taking people as they're coming in. And then they give you a little slip of paper with your number, or rather it's a code. It's letters and numbers for your turn. And then it comes up on a big monitor and it tells you what desk that you have to go to. And the desk that I went to, okay, so let me back up a second. I went to this appointment by myself. The company that handled my visa and is still handling my visa does not have a representative in Valencia. And so they offered that they could arrange someone or I could have gotten a translator, but I decided to try to do it on my own. Probably a bad idea, but I figured I might know Spanish well enough to wing it. And so I get to the desk and the guy, he was talking very fast. My Spanish is not good enough to understand at normal speaking speed. And I was pulling out my paperwork. I had a big stack of paperwork because I had my originals of all the required documents. Plus I had about 2 or 3 other copies of everything. And he just reaches over, he grabs my paperwork. He just pulls the documents that he needs out of it. And then he asks for my passport, makes some copies of the relevant pages, and does some stuff on the computer. And then right there at the desk, you get fingerprinted. And it's just one of those little things that you put your finger on. It's not like the whole ink and pressing your finger down like you see in older TV shows. Everything is digital these days. And so had to rub my finger a few times. Oh yeah, by the way, I was a little paranoid about that because a few days ago, I got a slice on the finger that they are going to fingerprint. And I was a bit worried that they might say, hey, you have a cut. We can't take your fingerprints. But it turned out that that was no problem whatsoever. So anyhow, do the fingerprints. He prints out some paper, stamps a bunch of things, and then I have my official document. And again, to get the actual card, I have to go back there in, I think it says 8 weeks. But I'm registered, and this is something that you're supposed to do in the first 30 days that you are in country. Uh, a lot of people take much longer to do it. I've heard stories of people taking 11 months, 12 months, over a year to get their TIE. So here I am clocking in at just over 5 months. I feel very relieved. And I realize that a bit of that is irrational, and and I'm basing how insecure I was feeling based on how things are in the US, where you basically have mass Gestapo running around asking people for their papers. And of course, I was able to tell within a couple days here that Spain is not like that. Spain, I even after I got back from the appointment, I got out of the Uber and there was a police car that drove by, and they just waved hi in a very friendly manner. It's just not like the United States. But anyhow, that was the process. It was very, very quick. It was probably less than 10 minutes. And there were a whole bunch of other foreigners there as well going through the process. And so, it's their job. It's something that they do. They process a lot of these. And so I was happy that I got that done. So let's see, what are my next steps? So, okay, so after I actually go back in 8 weeks and get the actual TIE, I might be eligible to apply for Spanish citizenship in 15 months. I'm not sure that's like a happy path because, again, if I get my Mexican citizenship and it's retroactive to my birth, the applying for Spanish citizenship as someone from, and I'm going to mess up the names, like Ibero-Caribbean or Ibero-American or something like that country, you can do after 2 years of residency, but apparently it might be from when your residency was approved, not from when you actually land in the country. So it could be, again, 15 months from now where I can start the application process. But in order to apply for the Spanish citizenship, there are 2 other things that I need to do. And this is the thing about how things work in Spain. One thing leads to another thing. There are all these different steps. You got to go through the steps. It's part of the process. So before I get to applying for Spanish citizenship, I need to pass 2 different tests. And one of those is for Spanish language comprehension. There's a written and verbal comprehension exam. Apparently it's like 2.5 hours, but it's called the DELE. If you are familiar with the different levels of language proficiency, you need an A2. A2 is pretty low, but I just want to make sure that I nail that. I want to take the exam as soon as possible, just have that ready well in advance. The other exam that you have to take is the CCSE, which is basically understanding Spain's constitution, Spain's culture, Spain's history. And that one is about 45 minutes. And I need to prepare for that one. There are a bunch of free resources online, and I just need to, make use of what is available through things like YouTube. Just watch more YouTube videos about the history and the culture because, again, this is my new home. I should know about it. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, as part of getting more proficient on Spanish, I've been watching Plaza Sésamo, in other words, Sesame Street. And if you are familiar with Plaza Sesamo, hey, let others know what Cookie Monster's name is in the comments. I think that his Spanish version of his name is kind of funny. Same with Bert and Ernie. If you know Bert and Ernie's name, write that in the comments as well. But I'm watching a lot of Plaza Sesamo as part of learning. And I'm going to be watching more YouTube videos on the history of Spain. I already have been watching videos. I just want to make sure that I'm really familiar with the information so I can go in and nail the test. And again, just be familiar with the information about my new home. But anyhow, I'm very happy. I'm very excited. These past 2 weeks have been amazing in terms of, moving into a new home, getting my padrón, and now getting my TIE.